In this video, basically, I'll be demonstrating how to extract data from OpenMRS using the analytics engine through OpenHIM to the Happy Fire server. Um, this is my local OpenHIM instance, and you note that I access the OpenHIM console at port 9000 by default. And this is the Docker compose file that I use to run my OpenHIM local instance. So 9000 is the default port at which I listen. I can access the console, and the OpenHIM core actually listens to client requests at 5000 and 5001. Those are the ports to which you can it listens to client requests. And 8080 is the port to which the console actually connects to the core, to the OpenHIM core. So I'm running the latest OpenHIM core image. And this is my local OpenMRS instance, and this is my Happy Fire server at happy.fire.org. However, OpenHIM does not work with a DNS name, so I'll have to use a IP address and port to which the server is on which the server is running. This is my Firebase URL. So I test out the server at its DNS name, happyfire.org. But then I'll have to use the IP address and the port in OpenHIM. So I also test out the IP address and the port, and they can actually work well. Postman. So now I go back to my OpenHIM instance to define clients. A client represents the client application that will be used to send data to the OpenHIM instance. And in my case, I define Happy as the client ID and client name as testing. And then I basically set a password for my client. I set in happy123. So that means my credentials will be happy123 as the username and password. And now I go ahead to define a channel. A channel is basically kind of a route for a configuration for routing data. And a channel, basically, I can set a channel to listen to specific endpoints. But in my case, I simply put in this dollar symbol, basically listen to any endpoint and that any client will send. So I don't specify a specific endpoint. And I define my channel to be used by my Happy client. So I use a client ID here as Happy because that's what I define it as when I was defining my client. And in my route configuration, I basically put in the IP address on which the server is running and the port which the server can be listened to. In my case, I don't define a route path just because I didn't specify any endpoint. So whatever endpoint the client will, if I leave the route path empty or null, whatever endpoint the client will send is what will basically be forwarded to the server. And this basic authentication in here is what will be used to authenticate OpenHIM request to the server. However, since by default Happy Fire servers do not authenticate their endpoints, this will be irrelevant. So after defining my channel, now I go ahead to run my analytics pipeline, and the parameters I'll use here. OpenHIM server URL will be my source data source. It runs at localhost 8080 stroke OpenHIM. And in my case, the FireSync path, I'll point this to my OpenHIM local instance, and I put an endpoint as base RF4 because this is a part of the base fire URL to the Happy Fire server. So base RF4 will be forwarded to the Happy Fire, and my my OpenHIM core instance listens to client requests at 5,000. So this is what I'll point to in my FireSync path. And since my client was defined as, I defined my client with the client ID happy and password happy123, that's what I'll put in here in my analytics engine to be authenticated to OpenHIM. So I'll copy this and start my pipeline. I move to the root folder of my binary. And I'm going to start running my analytics engine pipeline. And I'm running this in streaming atom feed. So basically, it captures changes from the atom feed module in my local OpenMars instance. Now my pipeline is up and running and is now listening to any changes in my OpenMars instance. So I'm going to register a patient and see whether that will be forwarded to the OpenHIM instance. I give him name test happy and test happy. And I'm going to save my patient, and the pipeline will listen to this change and forward that data to OpenHIM. So my patient has ID 1008. So I'm now going to check my OpenHIM instance, which I pointed. I can see the logs. The analytics engine basically uses a Happy Fire client to send data. So the first thing the Happy client does is to request a compatibility statement from the server, which it's going to interact with. And I can still see that that transaction recorded in OpenHIM. And yeah, this was the response compatibility statement from the Happy Fire server. And I'm also going to check my transaction for posting a patient because I added a patient in OpenMars. So this was the request payload, and this is the response from the server. So I can see actually my response in the recruited patient resource. It has ID 1008, which is my ID of the OpenMRS patient, and names test happy. So the resource is created with this ID. So I'm going to query my Happy Fire with that resource ID to check whether my patient resource was actually created in Happy Fire. So I can get the response of actually my patient resource that I created in OpenMRS with this same ID and names happy. So that was a simple presentation, and in this demonstration, I simply used OpenHIM as a simple pass-through. So there is no any modification done on the request payload. So the request payload is simply forwarded to the happy fire as it is. So thank you for watching.